Today's video is a combined London church and pub crawl, a route I devised with some guidance from a friend with local knowledge. I enjoyed this route so much that I decided to record and share it with you. The route I've set out is a leisurely stroll between several examples of the Maida Vale and surrounding areas' excellence in Victorian and Edwardian built heritage. The first port of call on my route was St Cyprian's Church, Clarence Gate, for which the closest underground station is Baker Street. However, since the weather on this midweek May morning was off to a really nice bright start, I got off at Great Portland Street to walk through Regent's Park, adding 15 minutes or so to my overall journey. I was still able to time my arrival at St Cyprian's Church to coincide with the end of the parish mass, but this appeared to run well over the time I had been told it would finish, so I simply stood at the back of the church and watched for a few minutes. This gave me time to explore some of the surrounding buildings, including the Grade 2 listed Dorset House, a slick Art Deco apartment block I stumbled across for the first time many years ago. The stone panels on either side of its main entrance were carved by Eric Gill. St Cyprian's is a triumphant Edwardian church in a high Gothic perpendicular architectural style, opened in 1903 to a design by Sir John Ninian Comper. Despite not being able to inspect the interior on this occasion, the church is renowned for being exquisitely furnished and even by some as Comper's finest church interior in the country. The exterior is not imposing. Discreetly perched on the junction of Ivor Place, it conceals a vast and impressive interior. The same can be said of some of the pubs to follow. To the first pub of the day, a good stretch of the legs up Edgware Road to join the Regent's Canal, and then a change of scenery towards the Warwick Castle. A Grade 2 listed pub described on Camera's website as having a pub interior of special national historic interest. Built in 1846, the street frontage blends with the terrace houses of the same period. A prominent iron lamp overhangs the entrance, a good example of a feature often employed at Victorian pubs to advertise their presence. When I visited just after lunchtime on Sunday, the atmosphere was perking up. The front windows and doors were thrown open, so sitting just inside in one of the 3 drinking areas gave a good view for people watching outside. The next church on my visit was St Saviour's Warwick Gate, today a mostly pale brick church dating to the 1970s, adjacent to Warwick Avenue underground station. I don't know if this church is regularly open to visitors, but I found it open and was pleased to be able to have a look around. The architects for this church were Biscoe and Stanton architects, who also designed Holy Trinity Hampstead, I believe. The church still has a lot of its original 1970s exterior signage, which at nearly 50 years old now feels a little tired. The modern hexagonal building with striking tower replaced a mid-century Victorian church of modest proportion and significance. Inside there is a plain stone font with a single chevron band cut around the tub, which is reminiscent of that decorative motif of the 12th century church. A single bolt of colour on the northeast wall is provided by a stained glass window, the work of artist John Hayward, installed in 1985 depicting the 7 sacraments. On to the next pub. The Grade 2 listed Prince Alfred is a 2-minute walk from St Saviour's Church. If the modernist church isn't your cup of tea, then you can step back into your comfort zone here. The Prince Alfred is described as the best example now existing of how London pubs in about 1900 were divided into numerous separate spaces, each occupied by a particular group of individuals and social groups. This pub has unique drinking areas, and no fewer than 5 of them, which are separated by elaborate timber and glass screens. The smallest compartment has a set of so-called snob screens, swivelling glazed panels which gave patrons a sense of separation from the serving staff. Next up is another pub, and at this point I could and perhaps should have found another local church to visit just to separate the day up a bit more. But boasting one of the most opulent interiors of any London pub, the Warrington Hotel in Maida Vale, no great distance from the Prince Alfred, is a prime example, according to Camera, of the extremes to which pub designers went during the golden age of pub building in the late 19th century. It's another Grade 2 listed pub with an interior not easily forgotten and impossible not to love, to borrow a phrase from my previous video. On entering the building by its decorative and eye-catching entrance, you enter into a large front room with a wide staircase off to the right leading up to the first floor. On your left, or straight ahead as you walk in, a semicircular bar and the elaborate canopy above it are quite a statement piece, though the paintings on the canopy and elsewhere date only from 1965, but they have about them a sense of the earlier decorative scheme. The selection of beers available was not as good as the Prince Alfred or the Warwick Castle, but this pub was very popular and still functions as a hotel and was overall a wonderful experience. A bit of a walk now up Randolph Avenue past the Maida Vale underground station, which I did stop in quickly to admire the roundels made in mosaics above the stairs in the entrance, to the final pub on this walk, the Carlton Tavern. Located on the Carlton Vale Road, you can see the spire of the next and final church on my walk. Why was I most excited to see the Carlton Tavern? Well, the pub originally dates from 1920 to 1921 and was probably designed by architect Frank J. Potter for the Charrington & Co. brewery. It was an early interwar pub with many of its original furnishings and fittings, but it was sadly demolished illegally in 2015 by Tel Aviv-based developer CLTX, who wanted to put houses or flats up on the site, but they had failed to obtain the necessary planning permission. Perhaps the developer had caught whiff that Historic England were in fact considering the building for a listed status, although it wasn't a listed building at the point of demolition. Westminster City Council subsequently ordered the pub to be rebuilt exactly as it had been and coming at great expense. The new Carlton Tavern reopened in April 2021. I hadn't visited the Carlton Tavern before its demolition, and I might not have fully appreciated it had I done so, but from what I can tell, the pub today looked and felt like it had, for all intents and purposes, stood there for decades. Now we head over the road to St Augustine's Church, Kilburn, to end today's walk. Though, unfortunately, the church was locked and I hadn't got so far as attempting to arrange access in advance, it was probably just as well, as I had had a few pints at this point, but was having a great time anyway. St Augustine's was designed by one of my favourite eminent Victorian architects, John Loughborough Pearson, in about the year 1870. Viewers of one of my earlier videos this year, from St Mary's Church in South Dalton in East Riding, Yorkshire, will recall that church also by Pearson, though preceding the one here at Kilburn by several decades. Here at Kilburn, however, the spire we see only appeared 20 years after the rest of the worship space had been built. John Leonard calls St Augustine's the most beautiful Victorian church in London, and its interior is quite a spectacle from what I've seen in books. The church was once described as, "Is there anywhere a Victorian church which is entirely harmonious, which is not pleasing without or within, which lacks neither prettiness nor grandeur, which invites the eye both to dwell and proceed, which is in short quite beautiful? There is, and this is it." In conclusion, I've had great fun today, though in hindsight, if I could have done one thing differently, it would be to do this walk in reverse, to start at St Augustine's and see that handsome, incredible interior, with hopefully more luck than I had at St Cyprian's, which I might suggest cutting out entirely and visiting on another occasion altogether. There is flexibility in this route, and I hope if you try to recreate it, you can add places to it, remove some, do what you want, but all in all, I think this is a solid route for a good London pub and church crawl, something to build on for the future. If you know of any other great pubs in London near some really impressive churches, do let me know. Thanks for watching.